Right, so welcome back to another episode of the Designated Podcast, and my name is Jackson, as you know by now, and I am here with my fellow crew members. They were supposed to say their names, but they didn't, so
It's not
we
how
have,
we're supposed to say our names.
no, bro, you were supposed to say your own names. It's Josh,
What up?
Julian,
What's up?
Jacob,
What up, guys?
and special guest tonight with us is Minneapolis Hammers on Twitter, and his name is Cody.
Happy to be here.
Alright.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Great to have you.
This is the awkward part where none of us know.
Okay, so here we go.
Okay.
Apparently I'm the host tonight. I'm running the show, which is gonna go bad here in about 30 seconds. I'm gonna start off asking you a couple questions that we talked about throughout the day, getting you ready for tonight. So the first question is, what are your thoughts on the season for Minnesota United so far?
Just 2 games in, but we were playing really, really good stuff. I think at the moment we're still on top of the West.
I think
Um,
Ooh.
Unfortunately, you were not.
Unfortunately, not.
Oh,
No, goal difference has us on top.
oh fuck up.
yeah, it's
I think you're second though, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
We had 2 away matches. The first one was Portland, I think.
Yeah.
Generally not an easy place to go. And last year, years prior, we were terrible on the road and had good results at home. And so that was a good first win. And then the following match was San Jose, I think, who, I mean, not the strongest team, but
yeah.
we dominated that one, I think, 5-2. And a little uneasy in the offseason. But, I mean, I was really, really happy to see us get off to a hot start. And I was thinking, probably going to be our year. And then coronavirus came and really put a halt to everything. So
We felt that way too with Sporting. So
Yeah. Yeah, we're all Kansas City fans, but we have I think I speak for us all when I say that we respect Minnesota
oh yeah.
and how much they've grown since coming into the league in
Nicest rivalry.
2017. Yeah, nicest rivalry in sports.
well, yeah, our first year we went from ASL up to MLS.
Mm-hmm.
We're god awful. Our first match
Oh, I remember.
lost. I think it was 5-0 at home to Atlanta in the snow.
Oh,
We didn't know at
yeah.
the time how good Atlanta was going to be, but still, it was like, geez, we are not ready for this.
mm-hmm.
Since then, I think I really, really like our board, and they make a lot of, strong decisions roster-wise.
Mm-hmm.
As the manager, and our team, just person for person is so much better now than it was at first.
Yeah.
We actually have a system that we work to, and yeah, it's much more organized than West Ham, I would say.
Yes, sir.
Not to go that way.
But yeah, I remember the days when Minnesota were just like one of the teams that like you always thought you'd beat, and now it's like Minnesota's definitely not one of the teams you want to end up against in a crucial matchup.
Yeah, and that's Minnesota sports in general have always been classic for like having a strong regular season. I mean, the Vikings have been doing it recently, but the Minnesota Wild did it before, and the Twins too. Or, maybe not the very best team, but one of the strongest teams in the league, and then it'll get to one big match at the end, and it'll all fall apart to the Yankees or whoever. But Minnesota United, at least last year, to kind of turn that around, which is to see to change, I think.
Yeah, I just think Iko Para is definitely like a huge part of that. I think honestly, and we sound biased because we're Sporting fans and we lost Iko Para and then we fell apart, but he really turned that defense around in my opinion.
He had Francisco Calvo, who's now
Chicago. I
the
think.
Chicago Fire.
Chicago, yeah.
And he was probably the least reliable defender of all time at center back for us, and he was our captain. I think he took more touches in the final third than he did tackles in our own end. I mean, he was just always going up, and he was playing center back, left back, and we would just get exposed game after game after game. Then once we got Opara and we moved him, everything changed, and we had the same center back pairings next to him, but the whole defense and looked way more organized.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of what he did at Sporting. But we love to see how much he's like flourished up in Minnesota.
Yeah.
because we still love him. Like when you guys came to Sporting Park last season, we sang his name and it was like he had never left.
We missed that man here. But
also Darwin Quintero, huge part of that turnaround up
yeah.
there as well.
Yeah, he definitely brought some quality for a while, but 2 years ago, before we were in the new stadium, we were back at CF Bank. He was definitely far and away the most like skilled player on the pitch for us week in, week out. He had that crazy run of chipping like every keeper in the league, just about. And then most recent season, every year the team has gotten a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. This last year, we didn't necessarily need him every week to make the difference because we had players around who could also impact the game. And I think, for whatever reason, maybe he lost a little bit of motivation and he wasn't really as impactful throughout the year. And so, at the end of the year, didn't necessarily need to re-sign him for a bunch of money. Like 2 years ago, maybe we thought we needed to. So I think it'll be a good move to let him go, but definitely he helped us push on from being a terrible team to something respectable.
Yeah, and we don't know how he's been doing with Houston. Well, we watched Houston play, but I don't think Quintero played. No, he came in as a sub.
He got subbed on.
I remember that.
Yeah.
But
either way, it's just 2 games in, so it's hard to really
so we don't know how that works out yet, but definitely not an awful decision. But I was really curious about the current Minnesota striker. Is it Amaria? I think it is. If that's
he scored in both games.
Yeah, he's been off to a good start, surprisingly.
Yeah, he had one of our designated players, Angelo Rodriguez. I mean, a year and a half ago, he came in mid-season, like 2018.
Yeah, I think so.
He just never really fit the style. He was big, was slow. He was a target man. He scored a few goals here and there, but every game he just kind of frustrated everyone around him. And then Mason Toy was our younger player we drafted like 2 years back, 3 years back maybe.
Toy. Yep.
He really came into his own this last year and scored a big goal against Portland in the Open Cup finals at home to put us through. And I think after that, I kind of thought, well, maybe we don't need Angelo anymore on such big money and maybe we can look elsewhere. And so then we did this last year and he's off to a flying start. So
yeah, I remember I read an article a while back where Amaria said he wants to score 25 this year, and I was like, this guy is hungry. He's hungry. So I mean, and we've kind of seen the same with Alan Polito with Kansas City. He promised a lot of goals when he came here, and so far he's kept that promise. So I think honestly, him and Amaria are two of, I think, like I'd say the dark horses for the goals for the Golden Boot this season. Honestly,
I mean, yeah. Dude had like 16 goals and 5 assists in Ecuador as well before moving to Minnesota. So that's, again, it just shows MLS teams looking at South America for their big money moves. And this seems to be another one that has paid off.
Yeah, we signed another young player from Uruguay, Thomas Chacon, and he didn't really get in last year because we brought him in with like a month left, but he was 18, even younger, 17.
Oh, yeah. Is he? You say he's from Uruguay?
Yeah.
I remember that, yeah.
So we got scouts all over the place. We're not necessarily a huge market team, but I think the club really spends the money well.
Yeah. One player who's surprised me with his start to the season is Kevin Molino.
Molino,
He scored twice. Was it twice against Portland, or did he only get one?
I think so, yeah. One might have been a penalty.
Right. But I think that he perfectly showcased how Minnesota's set up because, at least away from home, they looked to counterattack, and they counterattacked like quickly with Ethan Finlay and Kevin Molino on either wing just running at them. So do you think that when the season starts up, is Kevin Molino going to be able to carry this on?
I think so. He was, I don't know if he was necessarily our first big player after coming into MLS, but definitely someone we relied on heavily in the early 18 months, I would say, and then he tore his ACL, which was like a huge, devastating moment.
Right.
Darwin Quintero, that kind of gave Darwin Quintero the solo spotlight, which thrived in for a little bit, but towards the end of the year, he came back from that last year. This year, after having a year, whatever, back, seems to be back to his old self, and that would be a huge help. Because I mean, we did really well without him, but going to be up if we get the old Kevin Molino back in this new team.
Right. Yeah. He looked outstanding though in the games that he played. So it'd be nice to see him get back to his best.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Minnesota have really had like a good player in just about every position so far this season. I mean, in the fullbacks, you had Mettenmeyer. He's been amazing. You got Opara, center back, Alonso, the defensive mid, Molino in the midfield. Now Maria's been off to a good start up top.
So, another player that I think maybe has a shout to work into the national team at some point, Hassani Dotson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He kind of came in when we had no right back temporarily because Mettenair went to the AFCON tournament. We had questions at left back before Chase Gasper kind of grabbed that, and Dotson just played like every position. I think naturally he's like a defensive midfielder, but we just played him literally anywhere we needed somebody. He seemed to put in like 8 out of 10 every single match. It was like, who the hell is this guy? But I think he's a really, really good player. Nothing crazy, but does all the job you
was
ever
he
wanted.
through the academy? Was he an academy like that you promoted?
Oh, I think we drafted him.
I thought he was a draft pick. Okay. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. He was. I believe he was. Was he called up to the training camp in January? I thought he was. I can't remember.
Oh, Chase Gasper was.
Oh yeah, that was it. It was Chase Gasper.
Right.
Oh, then Dotson was on the youth team. I think. I'm pretty sure.
That's possible.
Yeah.
I think actually watching them both in person though, in the same position here and there, I rate Dotson a little bit higher. So I was actually surprised to see Gasper get called before him. But you know, either way.
Yeah.
For the club.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those two are really like at the fullback position for the U.S. A couple that get overlooked because right now we're really like hung up on Serginho Dest and Anthony Robinson with the U.S. national team. But I think honestly in MLS we've got a pretty good amount of good fullbacks that I think honestly if they got to Europe they'd probably get called up to the national team pretty easily. And I think Dotson and Gasper are probably a couple of those for me.
Could see Dotson getting a move to like the championship or something and thriving.
Yeah, I think that would be a good move for him, honestly.
Championship loves their fullbacks. Fullbacks do well in championship usually.
Oh yeah, Anthony Robinson definitely the one that comes to mind usually.
Yeah, I mean, man was on the verge of moving to AC Milan.
Ah, yeah.
That would have been absurd.
Yeah,
absolutely crazy.
Yeah,
can you imagine?
Anthony Robinson's definitely one of my highest rated fullbacks for the U.S. right now. Wait, has he gotten called up at all? I can't remember, but
I think so. I think he has.
I feel like it was just once for some reason.
I don't know. I could see Dest moving over to left back. Permanently.
I think that's definitely my favorite right now. I think Dest and Yedlin or Dest and Cannon would be a good combination.
What do you think about Yedlin going forward? Do you think he'll get aged out by some of the younger players? I mean, he's still young himself, but he hasn't really been the most consistent for us.
I'm still kind of like on the fence with Yedlin. I have not really watched that much Newcastle this season just because I don't really like watching Newcastle, but he's got the pace. We all know he's got the pace. We know he's good physically. I think the question right now is just I think his defending and his passing out of the back is just really lackluster. And I think with the U.S. going forward, especially with Greg Berhalter, we really need just a good defensive fullback. And I don't see that in Yedlin right now. So I think right now Reggie Cannon's probably my number one choice for right back.
Yeah, good shot.
Yeah, I'd like to see Reggie Cannon eventually take it. Mm-hmm. Yedlin, however, I think he's still training at the highest level that he can.
100%.
And like training in the Premier League, and among right backs in the pool, like that's the highest.
Yeah,
that's still the highest training regime that we have arguably Dest is probably higher because Ajax is Ajax.
Mm-hmm. And
But
we talked about it last week with we want Reggie Cannon to go to the Bundesliga, obviously.
Yeah. When Reggie Cannon makes that move, I think that Berhalter will eventually make him the first choice. But Jacob, you guys have any thoughts on this?
So yeah, I think Reggie Cannon, if Dest were to move to the left back position, I think he would slot in. Yedlin, like, he's what now, 27? I think
so. That sounds right.
I mean, we could play him at a more higher, like, attacking position with just because of his pace purely.
Oh
It'd
yeah,
be like
he could be a right
Sushi
mid.
move. Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
easily.
I think it would be smart to do that because our right mid position outside of
Pulisic
plays on the left for us, doesn't he?
He kind of
right. Yeah, Weah was play as a 9, I think, once out the door is done. So Yedlin would be a good right mid, right wing combo hybrid kind of guy for at least 3 or 4 years once, if he were to make that move. And Anthony Robinson, he just, I like him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's going to get a lot of recognition because he plays for Wigan.
Yeah.
That's the one problem. But they do have a really good back line there with him. Wigan's, of course, not going to do any damage in that championship. There's way too many good teams there for them to even sniff out promotion. They just, I don't know. I think he needs to either get sold by Everton or just, I don't know. I don't think he would have a future if he stays at Wigan.
Yeah, and that's the sad part about that whole AC Milan deal falling through, is like that was definitely his chance to be the starting left back for the U.S.
Who did they even get out of that instead? Theo Hernandez, right? They loaned him in.
I mean, they had Theo Hernandez.
They had him for a while.
In the summer. They got him in the summer. They were trying to get Robinson this winter.
Him in January. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I think to me that move always looked like AC Milan's looking for a few more American fans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's smart.
I think in some ways it might be good that it fell through, so maybe he's in a place where he can still get regular minutes and develop.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess he'd be at a much higher training standard. And
if he goes back to Everton after the loan, because Leighton Baines, if I'm not incorrect, is he?
I think he's out of contract. I think he's out of contract.
He's out of contract after this year. And I can't think.
Oh, senior citizen next month.
Yeah. he's getting retirement benefits.
Let's see. They got Lucas Digne, I think.
They have Lucas Digne.
Yeah.
Digne Baines. Fabian Delph.
Like, Delph is not a left back. I don't care what you say to me.
He's been playing.
He can play there. He can play there.
He's been playing center mid.
No, Delph is so bad at left back. It's like Fernandinho at center back, bro. You just
the Fabian Delph that won two Premier Leagues at left back.
From a City fan, Delph at left back worked at first and then was absolutely horrible from like the first title winning season afterwards. I'm just
why would it ever in your
Zinchenko did it better?
And Zinchenko's starting to show somewhere now. But anyways, we're gonna try and
who's your other left back? Mendy.
Dude plays 4 games.
Mendy, Angelino, if he comes back healthy.
Oh man, if I'm Angelino, I'm staying in the Bundesliga.
He's not even in. Oh, is he?
He's with
he's at Leipzig.
PSV.
No, he's at Leipzig.
Went to Leipzig. That's right.
Anyways,
he was at NYCFC. Shout out, MLS.
He did actually start here pretty much. That is all MLS producing right there.
Okay, well, we're gonna try and wrap it back around, but. Anyways, Anthony Robinson, his only competition at Everton right now is a Leighton Baines that's out of contract and is like old as hell.
Digne.
And then they got
a Luca Digne who's out of form.
Yeah, and for like cup games and just any game in between the Premier League and I was about to say Champions League. I forgot it's Everton. But any game in between, just like the big games for Everton, I see Anthony Robinson possibly getting a starting 11 spot for them. Just while Digne is resting or while he's out of form. So I think Anthony Robinson's best move is just go back to Everton for a little bit right now, wait it out, and then get a good transfer where you're going to get some playing time.
Yeah, I think he would start against teams like, well, if they void the league season and everyone stays where they are, he would play against teams like Norwich, maybe Aston Villa. I wouldn't say West Ham, just because West Ham's actually solid. They just had a bad year. Burnley probably. Brighton, teams like that. I mean, he would play at least maybe a dozen games in the league, at most.
And that's saying like Digne isn't injured at all, you know.
Yeah,
or doesn't...
that's a perfect season at left back. No injuries, no red cards, anything. And I think that would probably be his best development because again, it's like the Yedlin thing. He's going to a Premier League team. He's playing in one of the top 3 leagues in the world, regular minutes at that. That's gonna really boost his development, I think, if he does stay with the Toffees.
Yeah. Okay. We've been on the left back discussion for a while.
So yeah, let's move to the next question. Even though that wasn't a question, you just brought it up.
Yeah.
The next question we talked about asking you, Cody, was which MLS team do you see most as the West Ham of MLS?
I think in a lot of ways the whole league is West Ham because outside of maybe a few, like the top teams who've been consistent in recent years, I mean, everyone is so inconsistent, which is some of the beauty of the league is that, you know, anytime you go to a game, you could see, you know, any number of results from like 3-4-0 going either way. But I think that's kind of what West Ham is. I think early years, not as much this last year, Minnesota United, but the first 2 seasons are very, very much like watching West Ham.
I'm gonna say personally for me, I would say the Red Bulls because West Ham has had some really high highs, and they've never really accomplished much.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if you look at a trophy cabinet, what's the last time you guys have a trophy? Like, honestly, that's not a shot. It's just a genuine question.
The 1980.
Sam 1980. Yep. Yeah.
I mean, wait. Actually, the Betway Cup.
Betway Cup, lads. Don't sleep on it. Yeah.
Don't sleep on it. I think it was 2018, right? It took us like 3 tries to win our own trophy.
So, like, and that's what the thing is with the Red Bulls. They have supporter shields in the last. They have what 3 in the last 10 years or something like that.
It's an insane number.
I mean, they've been just a really high functioning team, and I mean, they don't have anything to show for it in their trophy cabinet besides 3 supporter shields, which is like the equivalent of the President's Trophy in the NHL, or just any sort of. It's like a participation trophy. You did good. You quote unquote did your best, and then after that, there's just nothing. It doesn't have any value for your club. And I mean, West Ham. I mean, in the Pyatt years, you had so many good teams with him for those 3 or however, not a lot of seasons, but
1.5, yeah.
You would have had a Europa League run if you didn't play some random team in Romania.
That's the fucking Gugu.
Hey, Gugu's difficult. I cannot stand the Gugu slander.
You would have had an FA Cup if Steven Gerrard didn't blast one in from 40 yards. I mean,
don't get me started. I mean,
wait, no. We lied. Our last trophy was 2012 playoff final.
Oh, get out of here, dude. That is not a trophy.
What do you mean that's not a trophy? Do you get a trophy for it? Do you get a trophy for it?
Bro, dude.
I mean, Wolverhampton got the same trophy. Don't even try it, Jacob.
No, do you get a trophy for it?
Different trophies. That was a trophy for getting 3rd place, bro.
It was a trophy for winning the playoffs.
Anyways,
what did you do, Jacob? I want to know.
What did you say?
What did you do? What did Wolverhampton do, bro?
We actually won the league. We didn't need to go into the playoffs.
They won the E Premier League. They won the E Premier League.
Yeah.
And we won
EPL.
Here's my thought. I think West Ham, the team I can most relate to them, is the Philadelphia Union.
Oh, okay.
That's disrespectful.
I would like once Jacob's
I'm interested to hear that. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I think most specifically, kind of going back to that Gerard parallel. I mean,
Oh boy.
they did so many MLS or U.S. Open Cups where they've lost, like in the final or something like that, and they always seem to like, in my opinion, underperform every year up to the standards that they really should be playing at with the quality that I think they do have on their team. And every once in a while, they'll have like a good player kind of come through, like CJ Sapong. He had a good season for them, like Pyatt did.
Yeah.
But they never really make it that far. You think they're always going to do better, and then they kind of fall short.
I can kind of see that.
I want to expand upon that. West Ham are also known for their academy.
Mm-hmm.
And Jim Curtin loves his play to kids movement. And I love Jim Curtin's play to kids movement. So we have our Declan Rice and our Mark Noble, and then Philadelphia have their Brandon Aronson, you know? Yeah. They love playing the younger players and seeing them come up, and then eventually they move on to bigger things like Frank Lampard or Rio Ferdinand did, or Joe Cole. But they still started at West Ham.
Joe Cole. Tampa Rowdy's legend.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yes, sir. I'm pretty sure he's an assistant manager there too.
Okay,
Chelsea fans love Joe Cole.
I love Joe Cole, bro. He was so good for us, even though he was 36 and dying every match. He scored like 12 goals and had 20 assists in like I think it was the last season we were in the NASL with the Rowdies. And then we became a USL team. He had 8 goals and 10 assists the next season. He just doesn't stop, bro. That's a class midfielder.
I would like to give my 2 cents. I think that the team that I see most as West Ham right now is the Columbus Crew. Because
okay. I see a parallel.
Because again, they have really high highs and they've had really low lows. We've saw Columbus get to the MLS Cup final back in, I want to say 2015. Yeah, 2015.
It was.
And then they lost to the Timbers. Last year, they had an awful year. This year, they've started off well. But also, I see it because they play in what is pretty much an iconic stadium at Mapfire. And they are now moving on to a bigger, better stadium. Except for with West Ham, it was probably not the right decision, honestly. But I don't know. That's a whole different conversation. But and they also have, just like every now and then, they have a player that comes through and really changes the style of play, like Dimitri Payet did. Like Pedro Santos and Higuain, I think, are the 2 ones. But Higuain stayed a lot longer than Payet stayed at West Ham. But so I guess just Pedro Santos. But that's about it for the Columbus Crew, really.
Well, and plus, all their fans hate all their owners.
Yeah,
that is a good.
If we go that way, then it's the Revolution who are similar.
I was very close to saying the Revolution because they've also had very high highs and very low lows, and the very high highs they have reached 5 MLS Cup finals and never won. If I believe that's correct. I don't know. And they've also had big players come through their club. Taylor Twellman comes to mind at the moment. I hear you snickering, Jack.
Can you tell me why or how he's a big player?
Okay.
I mean, no disrespect to Taylor Twellman, but I just want to know because didn't he come in when he was like 38 and like dying?
He played just very
6
injury
months
prone.
with the Revs?
He was very injury prone. I will admit that. But
that is the best player they've ever had is probably like
Juan Agudelo.
Maybe that's.
I mean, Carlos Hill
Diego
is very good.
Carlos Hill, yeah.
Gustavo Bo is very good as well.
Oh, Kai Kamara.
I mean, we forget the Revs were in the final MLS Cup final in 2014.
Yeah, that and then they lost to the Galaxy.
They lost to the Galaxy, but it was a Galaxy with Robbie Keane,
Landon
Donovan, Steven Gerrard.
Steven Gerrard was not on that LA Galaxy.
No,
he's not there yet.
No.
He came like 2016, I think.
I think so.
No, he must have come 2015.
And then Robbie Keane came out of retirement. Yeah. That was the last. Yeah, that was an insane LA Galaxy team.
Last Galaxy team that won MLS Cup. But
yeah,
I think the Revs and the Crew, I think, would be my 2 picks, honestly. But,
I say the Red Bulls because you can draw the parallel of they have the academy.
Oh,
they have good prospects and they come up and they do really well and fill in the gaps needed. And they've had their fair share of so close to trophies, but yet so far away. They've had their success in the league. That's why I say the Red Bulls.
All right, I got one. The West Ham fan has one.
Well, the West.
I liked the Union comparison a lot. I'm gonna have to say we're DC United.
Ooh.
We moved stadiums. We moved from where did they used to play? They moved to Audi Field. I forget where they used to
They
play.
used to play at the baseball stadium.
Yeah.
Robert F. Kennedy.
Yeah.
That was it. Yeah, it was yeah.
That was such a bad stadium. I want to just elaborate on that.
If you guys remember the stories, they're like raccoons and rats.
The worst stadium in the league to the like third best stadium in the league, and you guys went from one of the best atmospheres in the league to the worst atmosphere in the league.
Well, actually, yeah. Going on that comparison, the Chicago Fire. That way too.
You know what? Okay, but did the Chicago Fire ever have a good atmosphere? Let's be honest.
Negative.
No,
they did not.
It got even worse after they.
but besides the stadium move, there was also DC were really good in the 90s, as were West Ham in the 70s. They won 2 FA
back
Cups.
when it was 18.
They won it. They won 2 FA Cups. They won a European Cup Winners' Cup. They had like Jeff Hurst.
I swear to God, if you say they won a World Cup.
No, that was in the 60s. We did win the World Cup. But that was in the 60s. I don't think we had Jeff Hurst. I forget. But West Ham were a really good team in the 80s, and then they've fallen off. But I mean, they haven't they're still in the Premier League. Let's be clear. It's not like they've gone to. It's not like they pulled a Sunderland, you know.
Yeah.
Well,
2012.
West Ham will get relegated this year.
They're not going to get relegated this year because they're going to avoid the league.
Respect.
Okay, but what if they hadn't voided the league, Joss?
They haven't voided it yet.
What if they don't void the league, Joss?
Yeah, you're going down.
They're not going down. No way.
You're going down, bro.
There are worse teams than West Ham.
Ultimately, Brighton, Bournemouth, and Norwich go down. I'm a happy fellow. Now, if Aston Villa goes down, I'll be very sad because then Matt's going to be sad. We can't have Jack Grealish in the championship anymore. Like it's just
he won't be.
At this point.
No, he won't be.
You're right. He's coming to Southampton. Hey, Jacob.
They're going to Spurs.
Jacob, you know where he's not going? Wolverhampton.
Who would want to go to Wolverhampton?
The Portuguese, bro. You pick people who can speak English to play for your team. That's how bad Wolverhampton is, bro.
They hear wolves and it means something else in Portuguese, and they're like, yeah, okay.
Jack, you need to. Okay.
Oh God, bro, Wolverhampton. I'm sick of it.
We should move on before Jack gets heated about Wolverhampton.
Unreal.
But yeah, I guess we had just one final question for you.
Yeah, this is my line, by the way.
Yeah, I was stealing it from you, but you can go ahead.
Yeah, you were. That's unfortunate. that really is just disrespectful, Julian.
You know what?
Okay, so the last question we had before, I was so rudely interrupted, and he was trying to move on.
Shut up, bro.
What's it like? What's it like running a fan group?
Well, fan group I think is generous overall. It started off really recently, just a few years back. Me and kids living on my floor, freshman year of college, and we would go to a Brits pub or one of the surrounding bars in downtown Minneapolis for West Ham matches, and they didn't necessarily have a favorite team, but they watched the Premier League. I was big into West Ham, so I dragged them down for West Ham matches, and we gradually, as a group, built more of a bond around going to the games. So we would watch kind of week in, week out, cup matches, everything. Over time, at a few other West Ham supporters in the Twin Cities area, and I kind of started a Twitter account of Minneapolis Hammers, and we kind of just gave ourselves that little title. Not necessarily affiliated with the actual club or anything, but it's been cool to meet people in your area who are just as passionate about it seems completely irrelevant to 99% of the people in Minneapolis. But it's cool to have a little bond and struggle through majority of West Ham matches together. But it's a good time, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. In Kansas City, I'm not sure what like our big fan
It's Liverpool.
Yeah,
It's
Or United.
Or no, it's Spurs.
Is it? Oh god, no wonder we have so many Spurs fans in the fan base.
Yeah, we went to when we watched the Champions League final in Kansas City.
Oh,
it was filled with Spurs fans.
Oh, dude.
I remember for the World Cup in 2018, it was like the Croatian national team, which was really weird to me.
But, yeah.
I guess there is just a huge Croatian like heritage population in Kansas City, but yeah, I mean fan like supporters or supporter groups are not as common in Kansas City, I'd say, or at least like not as like openly discussed or like just like known in Kansas City. And so I think it's just really cool that you guys in Minneapolis were able to just like start up this from like the ground up. I think that's just really cool.
Yeah, fan groups, yeah. Sorry, you go.
Oh, there's a decent amount of fan groups for other clubs. Spurs are the biggest. Arsenal are also pretty big. Chelsea has a good number of people too. Thankfully, not as many United fans.
I think but it's like a great way to just get involved and meet people who share this passion that you share.
Right, it's much better going down to the pub for a match than yelling at your own TV, living room.
Oh yeah, no, I feel that. I have no one to wallow in my sadness with. I wish there was a Kansas City group. I mean, there is, like, but I haven't been to any of their things yet.
I'm sorry, it was Arsenal. That was the one I was thinking about because
no one cares about Arsenal, bro. I promise.
No. Sporting's commentator Nate Bukaty is part of like the Arsenal fan club in Kansas City, and they have watch parties at the Johnny's Tavern downtown.
That is unfortunate. I mean, really.
And then
I guess I have to stop watching Nate Bukaty.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to mute my TV from now on.
But,
yeah, I don't want to hear him.
I just remembered the other one was. I'm not sure there's many like watch groups, but Manchester United's definitely the other big one in Kansas City because back in 2010, when we played and beat Manchester United at Arrowhead.
Yeah, you had to flex that, didn't you?
Had to include it.
I mean, they showed the game the other day. I had to include that somewhere. But
my favorite Premier League versus MLS moment was Balotelli trying to do the no-look goal
against the Galaxy.
Yeah.
He
like out.
That was genius.
That was definitely like one of his. Was that like before his final season with City? I can't remember honestly.
I think it had to have been.
I'm the City fan here and I don't remember, but fuck.
That's sad. It's okay.
Yeah, Balotelli.
I wouldn't blame you.
Balotelli's just a blur. He comes to your club, does something cool for you, and then leaves like he was never there. But,
he went to Liverpool, right? Like,
yeah.
Do you remember anything he did there? Like,
He
I
didn't
don't
do
remember
anything.
only one thing he did for that club.
I don't think he did anything.
No, he was terrible. He was awful.
Hey, you know who else is terrible?
Oh, are we about to start some beef here?
Raul Jimenez, by the way.
Wait, what did you just say, Raul Jimenez?
Yeah, bro. He would not start like on any MLS team. I promise you. He's trash.
Jack, you have such a strong hatred for Raul Jimenez for some reason.
I don't actually. I don't hate Wolverhampton. I just hate Jacob.
Alright.
I'm just kidding, Jacob.
Okay. So, I think that's all the questions that we have related to Minnesota United and West Ham, I believe.
Unless any of you have anything. Oh, yeah, I do have one now that I think about it. So, Joss and I had a debate with one of our group chat members the other day. Who do you think is better, Declan Rice or Harry Winks?
Oh, it's really not a question at all. I genuinely don't think I'm being biased here. Declan Rice is so much better than him. He's out of his league.
You guys are really just trying to piss him off.
let me make it a little bit easier for you. Obiang or Winks?
Disrespect Pedro Obiang like that.
Personally, I'm taking Obiang over Harry Winks.
I'm taking Obiang too. Obiang on his
win
day.
the game, you take Obiang.
Exactly. Who scored the better goal, Obiang or?
Yeah, that's what you gotta go to.
I mean,
like if you think about it,
one was scored against Adrian, the other one was scored against Hugo Lloris. There's one answer.
One's a World Cup champion, and the other is a fraud backup for. I mean,
just
really
about that Sun goal on Adrian.
The person
Adrian was so deep and not center. It was
It was a terrible goal.
He's going to listen to this podcast and just be
I hope he
absolutely
does.
upset with you guys.
Shout out Callum.
Hey, Callum.
I didn't think we were trying to say his name.
All right, here's the other one: James Ward-Prowse or Harry Wings.
JWP.
So underrated.
That is a fact. That is a fact.
James
I
Ward-Prowse
agree.
Honestly, James Ward-Prowse is a quality player. Like, I can't even lie.
A free kick merchant, though.
I mean,
Quote
good
unquote,
to run
for
a
what
play as
Josh
well.
said. It's all right.
Inconsistent, but when
I
he's
love
on,
him, bro.
it reminds me of the year after Failhaber is nominated for MVP. It kind of reminds me of that Failhaber. Kind of
JWP?
inconsistent.
Respect
JWP.
James Ward-Prowse.
What do you? I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying like he has really good moments and he's a free kick merchant, but like he is just sometimes inconsistent.
I mean, sometimes that's all you need. That technique he has on corners is honestly unmatched.
It's actually stupid.
But
that is my only question because Harry Winks is not a good midfielder, and I just wanted to know.
Dude had no
your
goals or
personal
assists
opinion.
this season.
Bro, that's so sad.
Oh my god.
In a team with like Son, Kane, Lucas Moura.
Oh, I
Dele
forgot.
Alli.
I have two more. Danny Ings or Harry Kane?
What's the first one? Sorry, I couldn't.
Danny Ings or Harry Kane?
Gotta be Danny Ings.
That's a fact.
This season, Danny Ings, 100%.
Why would you ever take Harry Kane? What has he done for club or country? Have they won a trophy?
Jesus Christ. Okay. We're
Has he won a trophy, Julian?
He is not, but
That's a thank you.
Danny Ings before this season and during this season. I mean, we're being incredibly disrespectful to Kane, but
yeah.
he's been
But we hate
underrated
Spurs.
for a long time. I mean, he's had such a bad injury run, and it's his first season, like, really fit in a system that he can actually play in, knowing how he
That's
is.
a fact.
Back to
I
him.
mean, yeah, the team's built around Danny Ings, and Danny Ings delivers.
He's the postman. The other one was Arnautovic or Harry Kane.
Harry Kane.
That is incorrect.
Wrong.
Personally, I'm taking the locker room cancer. Mario Arnautovic.
Purely on the pitch.
Mario.
I mean, we can take over a game. We can park the bus. That season under Moyes, when we were really deep in a relegation battle, we basically just hoofed it to him 3 times a game, and he would take on the whole back line and somehow get a goal for us. I mean, he was
Honestly,
another
yeah.
level.
He was like the
completely
Danny
destroyed
Ings.
it. Yeah,
He was like
right.
Danny Ings this season.
Except, a locker room cancer instead of like
yeah.
decent
Well,
person.
besides that,
He's completely destroyed the team since leaving, and in his last 6 months.
I
We're
mean-
still fighting that hole that he dug.
Haller and
Morale.
Arnautovic would have been so nice to watch.
Haller is just mid. It's okay, bro.
He's
Bro,
not.
He-
next season you'll see.
In theory, Chicharito and him would have done well together too, but just
Bro.
so light in midfield outside of
Yeah,
Declan
now
Rice, we couldn't
Chicharito's
play
getting-
2 in there.
Shut out by the Houston
Respect
Dynamo.
Mark Noble.
I'll always respect Mark Noble.
Thank you.
Now Chicharito's getting shut out
My favorite
by
player of all
an
time.
orange team in Houston.
Julian, what are you talking about?
Chicharito's getting crossed to 90 times a game and not scoring once.
Oh yeah, that's a fact.
We talked about
Imagine willingly accepting an offer to go to Los Angeles to play for the Galaxy and not LAFC.
You probably just heard Los Angeles, and he assumed it was LAFC.
That's a fact.
Valence
He was going to go play
together?
with Valence, yes sir. They said he's playing with Jonathan Dos Santos.
Oh.
Levels to this.
Okay.
God, we have the best Mexican striker in the league,
Yes, we
without
do.
a doubt in my mind.
Yes,
No
sir.
lie.
There are no lies here. But yeah.
All right. So that is all we have for you. If you want to stay and talk about the other 2 things we were gonna talk about in our general discussion, you can. If not, and you want to continue with your brother, that's also fine.
Oh, I'll stick around. Yeah.
All right,
All right.
that's cool. So next is the God damn it. The next is the, hey. All right, we're
What's
good.
up?
Are you
Yeah,
good?
yeah. Yeah, no, I'm good.
All right. Anyways, next is the United States women's national team news.
The court case.
Yeah, their court case did not go through, and they are not going to get paid equally. How are we feeling about that?
All right. So I've actually done some research on this because I feel like that's important.
I've done research.
How are we feeling about Joe Biden saying that he will help fight for their equal pay?
Still don't like Joe Biden, but let's not get too political.
Okay.
Honestly.
It's smart. It's smart to like draw fans.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say, yeah, this is gonna be good boosting his voting.
But I mean, the U.S. is still gonna host the World Cup. When he realizes how much money that'll make the country.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way that he won't cut he will cut funding for that.
Yeah, there's no reason why he would want to. But yeah, we're not gonna get too political. I'm trying to like not word things politically, but
just say redacted when you have something political to say.
Yeah, redacted.
Just void your mention of anything.
It's kind of hard to talk about this without going into politics, and it's like, whatever. Oh, you guys are a sports podcast. Don't talk about politics. It's like, whatever, this is our podcast, we'll talk about whatever the hell we want to. But at the end of the day, there's so much that goes into this case that it makes it kind of hard to take one solid stance at it. And I know I'm going to piss off a lot of people by saying that I'm not taking a full side on this, but I do have a somewhat strong opinion about just this topic in general. The women deserve to be paid equally to the men at this point. If you look at the revenue numbers since the 2015 Women's World Cup, the women have been earning equally, if not as or more, than the U.S. men's national team have been earning in terms of revenue, advertising, and the such. And to me, I think that's all you really need to hear to know, hey, they deserve equal, if not more pay than the men. I think it's pretty simple. But just to hear I don't know what else to call them except for Euro snobs on Twitter that are just like, okay, women's soccer is awful. Who wants to watch women's soccer? You guys are stupid if you think that they deserve equal pay, whatever. Because I'm sorry, I left out the most crucial part. Because women's soccer is not as popular as men's soccer worldwide. And it's like, look, I'm not going to deny that statement. It's true. It's obvious. You can see it anywhere you go in Europe, anywhere you go in any other continent on the planet. Women's soccer is it's not as popular as men's soccer. That's a fact. We can all acknowledge that. But in the United States, that is where we are talking right now. In the United States, it is more popular than men's soccer at the moment. And so I think personally, it's pretty obvious we need to pay the women.
Mostly the Euros are mad. Mostly the English, they are mad because combined we have more World Cups than they do. I would be upset too.
That's why it's called soccer.
That is a fact. They respect us. They look up to us. And when it comes to national teams, I mean, if you think about it, what was their last World Cup? The 66? Yeah, we had 3 since then.
Yeah, easy.
That's so
Have we had
sad.
5 since then? Isn't it like 4 or 5?
I think it's 3. I think it's 99, 15, and 19, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. I think so.
Okay, I thought so. Okay. I mean, now, once the men's team wins, like when we come back to the U.S. in, what is it now, 2022? Yeah, we'll have 4-1. I mean, we're just better, like, in everything we do than England. It's okay.
It's not official. We're hosting the World Cup yet.
I know, but you can hope.
I can hope.
Be optimistic, please, for once in your life, Julian.
FIFA's corrupt, okay? That's all I'm going to say.
Listen, I mean, it went to Yemen, for God's sakes. Nothing against Yemen. I've never been there. But, like, how could you host a World Cup when
I actually
you have...
One of my things I've been doing in my free time during this quarantine is I was watching a Vice documentary about Qatari World Cup workers. Or I don't think it was Vice, it was another... I think it was BBC.
It was Qatar. I said Yemen. Oh, that's unfortunate.
Really was.
But it just the situation in Qatar it's really bad. It's awful. It's horrible. I don't want to talk about it too much. If you guys want a good documentary about it,
can you link it, bro? I need to watch it.
I will link it in the description below. And I'll give you guys in a minute. But the situation in Qatar is awful. They have violated human rights. They have just completely done everything that a World Cup hosting nation should not do in order to host a World Cup. And the fact that we are having to fit our schedule around Qatar hosting the World Cup, like the entire nation of soccer, is definitely an issue that I think a lot of people are going to take up with. And so, I mean, whether FIFA was corrupt or whether they were bribed, we will never know. That's obvious, but like...
Wait, don't we know that they did?
I think we do.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think
yeah,
we
they
already
did.
knew.
Was it
They were
confirmed?
investigated and it was found. Yeah.
That's why they're voiding the whole Qatari bid, I think, isn't it?
I thought
Or they're
it was,
going to try to.
I thought it was just they were
Yeah.
investigating it, but
No, they've already talked about moving it to us.
Huh.
And what was the other countries?
I think England was
Yeah.
England was the other one, yeah.
And Japan
about
and Korea, I think.
That was for 2026, I believe.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Maybe Germany, I think I saw in there potentially.
Honestly, that would be a really fun World Cup.
Anywhere,
if it goes
anywhere in
to a
Europe.
joint,
Anywhere in Europe would be good. But anyways.
except England, because then they'd have a reason to say it's coming home. Like we already know that a trophy is not going back to the English national team.
Okay, but
it's just okay. Anyways,
Yeah.
we'll move on. Go ahead. You have the floor.
Yeah.
okay, hold on. I forgot where I was, but whether or not they were bribed, of course. Yeah. Well, now we know they were. The point is, just everything that they've been doing. It's like you can tell soccer fans to boycott a World Cup all you want. The obvious thing that's going to happen is that it's probably not going to happen. Just the passion around the sport's too much, and all that. But I think that moving it to the U.S. right now is the obvious moral decision. I think at this point, or just like anywhere. I don't even care. Like I can wait till 2026. I would prefer not to, but just Qatar should not be hosting a World Cup with the condition that they're in right now.
I mean, even if you did Canada and the United States, that's still good. Like, anywhere
Mexico,
but Qatar would be exceptional.
I mean,
Russia's World Cup. Thinking about it, I mean, it wasn't a bad World Cup.
It was a pretty good World Cup.
It didn't keep me interested like the Brazilian one did.
And it's part of that. I think is just the U.S.
The fans,
the fans as well.
It's so much harder to get into Russia just due to their restrictions as it is, and I mean, it's farther to travel for like fans from North and South America to Russia than it is to Brazil,
and that's another problem with Qatar is that they have.
There's no one gonna go there. Like you will have hardly any fans in those stadiums if they do build them. If it stays.
And they've already spent billions upon billions of dollars to build stadiums already. And
they've only built like what half of the ones needed. Like,
I mean, yeah,
I don't think
they're on track, but like it's.
Yeah, man.
Regardless, it's still there's a lot of issues that FIFA has. There's a lot of issues that I think just the soccer world in general have with this World Cup, and even in the world of politics. Everybody, every group has an issue with this World Cup in some way or another, and
yeah, I mean,
it's just a bad situation. But yeah, you were saying,
it's gonna cut up all domestic leagues too. It's just so inconvenient. I think all around.
It's like even MLS will have to like work out their schedule to fit this World Cup at this point.
Well, I've read things that like we might switch up because of this virus. We might switch to the European schedule.
I think those are just rumors at this point.
Yeah.
It's all rumor. It's all talk at this point. But the fact is, the domestic leagues just in Europe and even now possibly in MLS, if we should choose to fit the European schedule, it's gonna mess up everything. And I think it's just very hard for MLS, just for FIFA and World Soccer in general to just say, hey, halt all World Soccer for a World Cup that's in just a desert in the Middle East that was possibly bribed for. It's hard for anybody to accept that. And I think that at this point, we should just move on from Qatar, try to find another host country. But it's obvious that's way easier said than done. So,
yeah. Actually, another point on the schedule change. I was just reading an article. I forgot where. But I guess the Lyon president Leon president, the French league actually switched to the MLS schedule because of all the coronavirus stuff.
Really?
Uncertainty about restarting in the fall.
Interesting.
I thought they voided the league in France.
That's what I mean. But they're not sure about next year starting up, and they maybe think it would be safer to just go in the spring.
You know, yeah, I can kind of see that. I don't know. I just think like after all like the European like fans saying like MLS's schedule sucks, it would just be so weird for them to have to follow that after saying all of that.
Yeah, I kind of want to see them suffer with their own just like remarks and like.
But it gets it gets hot in the summer in Europe. That's a huge.
Spain would be real tough.
Spain and France, I think, would be
Italy.
The biggest ones.
They don't know how to handle that.
They would have to move to air conditioning probably.
Yeah, they're not built for that. I mean,
yeah,
we have a lot of seasons. Like, I mean, we only play through at the end of the spring, the summer, and like the start of the fall, technically in MLS.
Mm-hmm.
But you see a lot of different weather changes. Like, you see the like pure heat through the summer, which is normal.
Mm-hmm.
You see the normal spring and summer. You see the rains, and then you see the freezing tundra of Colorado in like the middle of October. And then Minnesota gets snow in September half the time.
Yeah, we could not play a European schedule here at our outdoor stadium.
No way.
You would have 6 feet of snow in the middle of just Alanaz, and then you wouldn't play? Like, it wouldn't work here.
Oh, ground crew would need to be on about $700,000 a year to get that done.
That is a fact. And that, like, you just have a heated field.
With a lot of the Midwestern teams, especially we can speak for
Minnesota.
That. Well,
yeah.
I was going to say in Kansas City specifically, the weather is unpredictable. Like,
it really is
during
bad.
the European schedule, like during that time, it is unpredictable, and it's just like when you have the schedule to the point where the end of the season is where that unpredictable weather is, I think that works just a whole lot better.
It does.
And it's like America's just like a weird situation for soccer because like you said, there's just like a different climate everywhere. And we could get into a whole other discussion about that, but like there's a reason why we decided to have the schedule the way we did.
Because, I mean, you can literally fit most European nations. Like, if you just take from, I think, like, Germany over, you could fit them inside, like, the middle of the United States. Yeah. We're so much more spread out. I mean, that's a big part of it. This is definitely a different discussion on a different day, but I don't think the French League would pick up our schedule. I think... it would be. I don't think their players could handle the summer. I mean, France is very nice climate during the fall and the winter. I mean, that's most of that part of.
We saw it like last summer. It was like they had horrible temperatures there.
Yeah, wasn't it like record-breaking temperatures throughout the summer?
And France is a country where air conditioning isn't like as common as it would be in the U.S. or in...
Same way with England. I mean, Spain and Italy, I'm sure, but France, Germany, England, the Dutch, those leagues, they suffer. Yeah, they wouldn't. But yeah, that's interesting. I didn't hear about that from the French president.
I think it wasn't the French president, just the
Lyon's. Yeah,
I think he's known for kind of putting out controversial statements every year, so there's not much to take from it, anyways.
No.
Yeah.
One thing off topic, and this is with the Bundesliga. Are they going to go through with starting the league up soon or no?
We don't know. And now
they haven't heard anything else, or
I was actually going to link that to our next discussion. MLS has cleared individual workouts starting in 4 days on May 6th. Obviously, it'll have been a little while since then. Once this podcast is out, but in the Bundesliga, I believe it was FC Cologne.
Yeah.
Cologne. They started up training. Obviously, in the Bundesliga, they started full team training. I believe it was 3 players tested positive, or were at least tested for coronavirus after they started testing. I personally think that we're not going to be seeing soccer for quite a while long after this has happened now. I think individual training, the way that MLS is doing it, I think it's a concept that we kind of have to wait and see. It sounds good on paper, but of course team training, the way that they did it in the Bundesliga, sounded good on paper, and now there's players testing positive left and right. Or not left and right.
Yeah, Cologne had staff members test positive.
Yeah, okay, so it was the staff, wasn't players, but
yeah.
That's
Same
it's
difference,
still
yeah.
it's unacceptable. And
do you think that because of that they'll void the Bundesliga?
They won't void it, but they will.
I think
either.
I don't know. I think that I wouldn't be surprised if they voided it because it's pretty close in the Bundesliga right now.
That's the thing. Yeah, there's not a runaway winner like it was with the Belgian league and the French league. I think Bayern's only up by 4 points on Dortmund.
Yeah, 4 points on.
And then it's 7 on Gladbach, or like 11. We're not far behind.
Yeah,
so,
Leverkusen and Schalke are also up there.
Yeah, I was
there's a fight for the European spots. Like first through 10th is a fight.
You need to finish that league. I mean, after that Cologne news come out, you can't force them to play yet. You got to push it back another 2 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it takes.
Please.
But because they pushed back the Euro schedule for 2021, you kind of have the summer to try to put it in there somewhere. You have a really tight crunch coming up because that tournament has to be played next year.
Mm-hmm. It's a very complicated situation, and just like everyone's gonna try and like politicize it, whatever. There's no politics in this. It's like the thing is, we stop this virus by social distancing, and I think that's obvious. But I think honestly, right now, with the Premier League, I think it was the Premier League, I think, talking about coming back very soon for team training. Germany has been one of the better countries with handling this virus. Just like the way that they were quick to react to it, and they took drastic measures that worked out. And so to see that drastic measures taken early still lead to cases in team training for the Bundesliga, I think shows that we need to set aside soccer for some more time. And as much as I hate saying that, I am like, don't want to say that at all. I want soccer back so bad, as much as anybody else. I want Gatti Kinda and Alan Polito putting 5 past the New England Revs, whatever. It's like, it's whatever. Right now, soccer is not the biggest issue in the world, and I think that's obvious. As much as we want it back, as much as it pains us to say that we need to wait a little while longer, we need to wait a little while longer.
If I'm not mistaken, when Bundesliga clubs started training, nobody was tackles on each other, right? It was distanced.
Yeah, it was distant.
So if they're still popping up with cases now, and it's not, and there's no way you can play a match.
No, the whole entire league would be sick within the first official match day.
I think a good quote that I have comes from a City journalist I follow on Twitter, Steve McInerney, esteemed company, one of my favorite City YouTubers. But he's just like, look, right now, the Premier League should not even be like considering coming back. Like, I don't care. He said that, and I agree with him. I don't care if Liverpool wins the league or not at this point. It's just like, if they win the league, I'm okay with that, just so long as it means the league is being voided. Because like,
wait, you think City has a chance against Liverpool, don't you?
No, I don't think we have a chance at all.
I was about to say, because you're what, 17 points,
20 something.
Yeah.
But anyways,
there's no way.
The point is, I don't care if Liverpool gets the league because of this. It's like that's not.
Do.
I don't. No, I really don't, because I know we're not gonna. Anyways, we were not gonna win the league anyways. I'm able to accept that, but the issue, we need to just stop thinking, hey, the Premier League, if they do this, then maybe they could come back. No, we just need to just say the season's over, and we just need to wait this out.
Yeah, I agree. One of Southampton's chairman, he said that the Premier League should not even be close to returning. Like, the thought of it should not be there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's true because England is. I mean, they're sort of trending down now. I think.
I don't even think so, honestly.
Regardless, that's not even the Premier League shouldn't even be one of their worries because one, Liverpool's won the league. It's over.
Mm-hmm.
No one's catching them. There's no miraculous thing that could give any other team the Premier League title this year. Two, all the teams going down are pretty much set in stone. I mean,
besides,
I think
West Ham.
I think.
I mean, it's
Brighton,
close. It's close.
It's close.
It is.
No,
I think Norwich is about the only team
for sure going down. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
right. And then it's Bournemouth and who? Aston Villa.
Right now, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like either
So,
Bournemouth or Watford.
It is
I think-
Watford. You're right. Watford.
Yeah, I
is
think it's Watford.
19th, and then it's Aston Villa. So the relegation, it needs to be played out.
Yeah.
But then again, it really doesn't. If you just say, you know what, the season's done, we'll just redo the exact same season next year, and just go from there. That's what you need to do.
Yeah.
Or that's what the Premier League needs to do. I think that's the safe option. I think that's the right option because they've already had a winner for the last 3 months. It would save not only their players' conditions, and they would probably try to get fans in the stadium, so potentially people's lives. It would also just, I don't know. There's no really it prevents any further injuries from their players. There's a lot of little positive things in there if they don't resume the season. As much as I want some form of soccer back besides the Belarusian Premier League, and esports, it's not worth the risk at this point. It's
I'm
especially
happy.
here in America. We're plateauing at the top. Like, we're still at our peak.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing going down. It's just new higher cases every day, more deaths every day. I haven't seen one positive thing involving the news here in the United States
Oh no, everything's just
in 2.5 weeks, I think.
They're even yesterday, I believe it was or maybe that was today, I can't remember. In Southern California near Los Angeles, there was a big mass protest.
Yeah,
it's
at Huntington Beach, right?
Yeah,
yes,
it was.
Yeah, Huntington.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm trying to gather my thoughts here and just try.
While you do that, but yeah, there's been a lot of. I mean, the United States is in just turmoil at the minute. It really is bad, and I think sports honestly should be releasing their concerns, even though all of our sports organizations and leagues, they're like the big moneymakers here in the United States, but without fans, that's half the revenue there. I mean, you're kind of making money off TV, but the United States, it has much more of a health crisis going on that needs to be dealt with prior to anything opening back up. And I don't think a lot of the citizens here understand that. They've never dealt with something like this, even though we've had minor pandemics in the past. We had Ebola, which didn't ever really affect us here. We had the H1N1,
SARS, yeah.
And I mean that killed 12,000 people, but no one's.
And
this is different.
We have like a third of the cases in the world right now in the U.S., I believe.
Right, we have over 1 million, and there's only 3 point something odd million in the world. That's sad.
It says something. It says a lot about what's going on.
Right, and all the Asian countries, South Korea, Vietnam, they've all handled this
China as well.
really well.
Yeah,
China covered up. I mean, we're not going to dive into that too much, but they have overall, yes, they've overall handled it very well. I'm trying to think who else. Japan's done good.
Mm-hmm.
Australia's on a really good downward trend. So is New Zealand, even though they're Oceania, they're not Asia. Trying to think who else.
Yeah, I mean, the point is, just about every country but the U.S. has taken drastic measures in order to prevent this.
Right, and everything's starting to get better in those countries except for here.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you can tell the issues.
And the UK. We're gonna.
Well, yeah, the UK is.
We're gonna throw them under the bus with us too.
Yeah.
But
bring it back to the football a little bit.
Yeah.
England in particular. They do seemingly the right thing and avoid the rest of the season.
Mm-hmm. And
do you think they should do about like top of the championship and like Leeds and West Brom being what, like 7 points up above?
I said a relegation playoff like Bundesliga style would be a good choice.
I mean, sure, that's not a bad option, but why not just do a larger Premier League for one season, have more teams go down?
Exactly.
You know what? That's actually a good choice.
Exactly. You'll have more games, but you can just extend the season, I think.
Yeah,
so they play to like the beginning of June instead of the end of May.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You can there's a winter break that's being added this season as well. So they can either keep that or postpone it until next season so they can get all the games in. But yeah, I think promote Leeds and West Brom. Don't relegate anybody. European places are decided by where the teams are at now, and we go from there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's my take.
We can like relegate 4 for the next 2 seasons, or something along those lines, or just keep it at 22. Fuck it.
What about Norwich? Aren't they mathematically down already?
Yeah, but
they are not. I don't think Norwich are.
No,
they are. They only have like 15 points, bro.
No, I don't think they're mathematically done though.
No, because they're still like a fair amount.
They're really only 2 games out from being back in there.
Yeah, they have just like a few more wins.
Here's what you do. Like Josh said, you do Leeds and West Brom come up, and then at the end of the 2020-2021 season, you send 5 down instead, and you bring up the next 3. That's what you do. You just have a larger relegation zone. It would be the only. I think that's the only way, because you get it back to normal if that's the case. Unless you keep it at 22, then you'd have a normal 3. But like,
got to play out the league, and I think you just wait until this all passes over.
Yeah.
And then you figure it out from there. I mean, I can't. The Premier League is already long enough as it is. There's a lot there. It's a long league, and on top of that, it's more grueling than any other league. So you're going to see negative impacts on European competition. Plus, we only have 9 more games to play this season, so I don't think it'll take that much longer. I mean, if you play every game or if you play every week twice on Wednesday and Saturday, or Wednesday and Sunday, that's only 4.5 more weeks that you have to do that.
That's kind of asking a lot, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get it, bro. You want Wolverhampton a European spot this year?
We get it.
In your guys' recommendation, Wolves would still get the European spot, but what I'm saying is that it's not fair for the teams that are in relegation zone and for them not to, have their shot to earn their spot in the league the following year. I think it's not fair to Liverpool either for them not to be able to win the league outright, because then there'll always be an asterisk next to their name. So,
yeah, that is true. It would be a tainted title, and it's
sorry.
Incredibly unfair to the teams in the championship in those 3 through 6 spots looking for a playoff spot. Like, I think that's who's the most unfair to, because there are a lot of not odd teams. There's a lot of really good teams in those playoff championship spots, and it's a chance for a lot of revenue to come in from the Premier League television deal and stuff, and that makes a small team like, let's say, Derby County become a medium-sized team, because they get paid an incredible amount of money just for getting promoted,
being in the Prem. Yeah,
right. Yeah. So I think that's the biggest shaft to them, because West Brom still got plenty of money, I'm sure, from their years here. Leeds is a fairly large club.
Leeds, yeah, they're giant.
Yeah. And I mean, you think about the teams that are stuck there in those playoff spots that want to come up so bad, and they have to play one of the most fun moments in English football in that playoff championship to come up. It's just unfair to those guys, because they worked all year. They have a dozen games to go or something like that, and they might not be able to get that spot if they were to just void the league entirely, or just call it where it's at now and say, this is it, we're done.
Yeah.
9 more games for them.
Is it 9? I thought they had a little bit more because they play what, like 46?
They play 46 and then on
37.
But then in playoffs, in the playoffs as well.
I have one final question that I want to, or just one final topic that I want to put out there.
All right.
Before we go ahead and end the podcast. Recently, I believe it was in an interview, MLS Commissioner Don Garber said that he is considering neutral sites for the rest of the MLS season, of which included Orlando, Dallas, and Kansas City among those sites considered. And I believe in the Premier League they said they were considering neutral sites at some point, but I don't think that idea is on the table anymore. What are your guys' thoughts on this?
Neutral sites? Would that be like no fans at all?
I have no clue.
Yeah,
honestly.
I think it's no fans. Your staff, your manager, your players
all stay in Kansas City all stay in whatever city for the rest of this season or until the virus is over, I think.
So, one thing, why would you want to play in Dallas or Orlando?
Especially in the summer, that'd be awful.
Yeah, especially like
Kansas City's okay.
Oh, Kansas City would be pretty bad too.
I mean, yeah, because it's tornado season, bro. Like, it is about to be a nightmare in both Dallas and Kansas.
It's already tornado season.
I don't know where you would put neutral sites, honestly. Minnesota would be a good one.
Yeah, I'd say for my main picks are
Seattle,
Minnesota, Seattle, Portland. Those are my main 3.
I would not say Portland. No, sir. No,
really?
Sir.
I think Portland would be awesome.
Seattle, yes. No, I would not want to watch a neutral game between Orlando and the Revolution, buddy, at Providence Park. You cannot pay me to watch that game on television. I'm sorry.
Wait. Now, what about the Dynamo?
Don't say Dallas. Do not.
The Dynamo and Orlando.
All right. You know what I think about that?
What do you think?
Did you just leave? Okay.
I would never.
Okay.
It sounds good on paper, the whole idea of neutral site games, but if you think about all of the players, like a personal level, like that's so much to ask for them to move away from families and stuff like that for.
Yeah, and we don't know that's the final plan.
Neutral,
but it sounds like that's what they're considering.
I'm saying just being considered in general. I think you would have to increase pay or make some sort of incentive to get that all sorted out, and they're already losing so much as it is. I mean, I just don't think it sounds.
I think the Premier League was the initial league to suggest that idea, if I'm not incorrect, at some point earlier on, like a month or 2 ago.
I mean, the way for it to work would be that they would have to be isolated just as a team, and you wouldn't be able to go back to family and stuff like that and expose yourself to outside.
I think the Premier League proposed it somewhere in. I want to say they said like Qatar's the only country coming to mind for some reason, but that doesn't sound right for some reason. But anyways, I don't know. I mean, from my personal thoughts, it's like, would I love for MLS to be like just to go watch some random MLS game at Children's Mercy Park? Yeah, I'd like to see that, but obviously that I'm not concerned with that right now. I'm just saying, I'm fine watching Juan Kuzain play FIFA and destroy other people and destroy other players for another couple months. Honestly, like, I don't know. I'm just saying, I'm not concerned about it right now. I think, like, MLS will come back when it needs to come back, or like when it is appropriate for it to come back. I just think neutral sites take out a lot of it. I mean, I just don't really see any reason for anybody to want to do that as a player, especially if you're like not in the neutral site city. There's just no reason you'd want to do that. Yeah,
I think the MLS should play a round robin this year once they do come back. So they shortened up the season to 25 games. Everybody plays everybody once, and then you take the top 8 teams and you put them into a playoffs, or top 4 teams put them into a playoffs.
You know, it's actually a pretty good solution. I hadn't thought about that one.
I just say we give the MLS trophy to Sporting Kansas City, and we give the Supporters Shield to Minnesota United and call it a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Consolation.
You know what? I can get down with that.
Yeah,
in the US Open Cup, who do we just give that to?
Don Garber.
We draw it from a hat. We draw it from a
the scenes when Nashville wins the Open Cup.
Austin FC. Not even in the league. They're just automatically US Open Cup champions.
Do Charlotte have a team name yet?
No, they don't.
We give it
to Inter Miami.
Good for them. Good for Inter Miami. Way to go.
Way to go. What an inaugural season.
No. Let's just give it to like a USL League 2 team. Like,
okay, the Tampa Bay Rowdies got it.
I was gonna say Caw Valley, the Lawrence team.
Yeah, no, I'm feeling like the San Antonio Rampage, or no, they're not the Rampage. What are they?
San Antonio FC.
I say FC.
Yeah.
Did they rebrand?
Yeah.
Yeah, they did.
What did they used to be? The Scorpions, right?
Yeah, they were the Scorpions.
Okay. No, let's give it to Phoenix. Phoenix deserves it. We'll give it to Phoenix.
Yeah. Phoenix Rising. Yeah, let's go, Eric Digg. You're a U.S. Open Cup champion.
All right, so we're all in agreement. Sporting wins MLS Cup. Minnesota gets the Supporters Shield.
Yeah, good job, Minnesota. You guys
Phoenix gets the Open Cup.
Trophy since the NISL.
It's your biggest trophy in club history.
I mean, Sports Shield's pretty big, but yeah, I think it's about time for us to wrap up, to be honest. But
this has been a fun episode to record.
This has been a very long
we've finally gotten the whole we're not serious anymore.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. We are serious, but like we've definitely become a lot more lax in this episode.
We say after like 30 minutes of like political talk, but
okay, well, the political talk you can just cut out.
You know,
it was just a nice, fun discussion to have. You know.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap things up. Thank you, Cody, for coming on Minneapolis Hammers. I'll leave a link below for you guys to check him out if you have anything you'd like to say before I go ahead and wrap things up.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I enjoyed it. I thought it was much easier to talk through and give my thoughts than I was even expecting. So I'd be happy to come back anytime.
Yeah, it's been great talking to you.
It's been a great
we really appreciate it.
This has been a wonderful episode of the Designated Podcast. As always, thank you all for listening or for watching if you're on YouTube. As always, leave a like or subscribe if you want to see more of our content that we have on the way. But yeah, from the Designated Podcast, this has been Jules.
It's been Josh.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're leaving you out to dry this time, buddy. I'm not saying my name.
You know, it was worth a shot. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you all next time. See ya.
See ya.